Bristol woke up to a bang. Not metaphorical, not political. A real physical explosion that ripped through a home on Sterncourt Road just after 6:30 in the morning. People didn't wake up to alarms. They woke up to impact. Windows shook, beds jolted, and within minutes, the street was no longer a street. It was a scene. What happened? Let's anchor this in reality. An explosion hit a residential property in Bristol. 2 adults were killed. A major incident was declared. The cause is being treated as suspicious. Residents were evacuated from surrounding homes. A police cordon remains in place. Investigations are ongoing. That's not speculation. That's confirmed. The word that changes everything. Suspicious. Now here's the word that shifts the entire tone of this story. Suspicious, not confirmed accidental, not confirmed deliberate. Suspicious. That word sits right in the middle, and it does something dangerous to the public mind. It creates space, space for questions, space for theories, space for fear to quietly start building its own narrative. But let's be clear, this is not being treated as terrorism, despite everything happening this week in the UK, despite the raised terror threat level. Police have been very direct. This is not being treated as a terrorist incident. And that matters because without that clarity, the story spirals fast. The scene, picture it. Early morning, residential street, emergency services flooding in, police, ambulance crews, bomb disposal units, a cordon thrown up around the area, people told to leave their homes. Not later, now. Families walking out half awake, carrying whatever they could grab. Some evacuated to a nearby pub, turned into a temporary shelter. Because when a major incident is declared, normal rules stop applying. Safety takes over everything. The bomb squad, presence. Now here's where the tension tightens. Bomb disposal teams were seen at the scene. And when people hear that, their minds jump immediately. Explosives, intent, something planted. But here's the reality. Bomb squads are deployed as a precaution in situations like this to assess risk, to eliminate threats, to make sure nothing else is about to go wrong. It doesn't confirm cause, it confirms caution. The second property. Then there's another detail that quietly raises the stakes. Police are also investigating a second property in Speedwell linked to the incident, and that's where things start to feel less contained. Because now this isn't just about one address, it's about whether there's a connection, something that links locations, something that broadens the scope. The "we're not looking for anyone else" statement. Police have said they are not currently looking for anyone else in connection with the explosion. That's significant because it suggests, at least for now, there is no immediate manhunt, no suspect on the run, no active threat moving through the city. But, and this is important, investigations are still in the early stages, which means conclusions are not final, they're provisional. The early stage problem. Here's where people struggle. Early stage investigations are messy. Information is incomplete. Details are still being verified. And what seems clear in the morning can look completely different by the evening. But the public doesn't operate well in that space. We want answers fast, clean explanations, but reality doesn't deliver that on demand. The impact beyond the house. 2 people have died. That's the center of this story. But the impact doesn't stop there, because an explosion like this doesn't just affect one property. It hits a community, neighbors shaken, families displaced, a street that will never feel quite the same again. Because once something like this happens where you live, you don't forget it. Bristol context. This hits different. And let's not ignore context. This comes at a time when the UK has just raised its terror threat level. So even though police have clearly said this is not terrorism, The atmosphere is already tense, already alert, already sensitive, which means this incident lands heavier, feels bigger, even if the cause turns out to be something else entirely. The pattern question. People are already asking, is this connected to anything else? Is it gas? Is it structural failure? Is it something deliberate? And right now, the honest answer is we don't know. 2 people are dead. A house is gone. A street has been torn open in the most literal way possible. And the city is left standing in that uncomfortable space between impact and understanding, because that's where this story sits right now. Not resolved, not explained, just suspended. And here's the reality nobody likes to sit with. Suspicious doesn't give you comfort. It doesn't close the story, it opens it, because it tells you something wasn't immediately obvious, something didn't fit neatly into the expected. And that means the truth is still moving, still being uncovered, still being assembled piece by piece behind police cordons and controlled statements. But what is clear is this: there is no active threat being reported, no suspect being hunted, no confirmation of terrorism, and that matters because in moments like this, clarity is the difference between awareness and panic. Still, the questions don't go away, they linger. What caused it? Why did it happen? Could it have been prevented? And perhaps the heaviest one of all, could it happen again? For now, Bristol does what cities always do after something like this. It keeps moving, but slower, quieter, more aware, because when something explodes in your city, it doesn't just damage a building, it shifts the feeling of the place. And that shift stays long after the smoke clears. And here's where the weight deepens, because recovery doesn't begin when the fire engines leave. It begins when the noise fades, when the street is empty again, when the barriers remain but the crowds are gone, when residents return not to normality but to something altered, windows boarded, air still carrying the memory of impact, conversations reduced to low, careful tones. That's when it becomes real, not the explosion itself, but the aftermath. Because incidents like this don't end in a single moment, they echo in insurance claims and temporary housing, in disrupted routines and fractured sleep, in the quiet mental replay of what if I'd been closer. That's the part that doesn't make headlines, but it's the part people live with. And as investigators continue their work, slowly turning uncertainty into explanation, the public sits in that familiar, uneasy pause, waiting for cause, waiting for closure, waiting for something solid to replace the unknown. Because until the cause is confirmed, the story remains open. And open stories have a way of stretching, of pulling attention forward, of holding people in that suspended state just a little longer than they'd like. So for now, Bristol holds its position, not in crisis, not in calm, but in that narrow space between the two, where life continues but with a sharper edge of awareness, and where a single question quietly underpins everything. What really happened here? Because once that answer arrives, everything shifts again. Understanding replaces speculation, facts replace fragments, and the story finally moves from shock to meaning.